Hi, my name is William Hughes, and I want to talk about my insights from the first week's readings for the course that I'm taking at Indiana Tech. First, we're going to start with the Van Looy discussion of ambidextrous organizations, or diversified, if you will, and how the authors talk about the difference between a technically diverse organization and how the separation between departments within an organization helps lead to costs for services, which in turn leads to more diversification, which leads to more costs. And it creates a situation where the best scenario is that you have to balance how far apart these departments are in order to make things work. Turning our attention to how we apply this to the other readings. With the Lenovo reading, I found it interesting that there was a combination of selecting the right people, changing the organization, and then dealing with cultural differences between the Chinese part of the organization and the U.S. part, the former IBM PC organization. In this case, what they did was, because Americans are seen as more bold, as more forward, and while the Asian culture is seen as more deferential to the leaders, they chose to take it. The Americans tend to take over the meetings and display their power, and the Chinese side saw it as a getting it rammed down their throat. They didn't really care for it, but then they learned to balance it out through, and it worked out well for them. With the Lego reading, what we picked up on was that, again, they picked people for the right jobs. They picked people that had experience. They picked people who knew what they were doing. They picked people that helped build a culture within the company. And then they kept building it up and changing and tweaking and redoing and tweaking and redoing. And I'm going to make a metaphor for that in about a second, because I'm going to talk about the final piece, the Lipschitz reading, demystifying organizational learning. We talk about how there's a structural, a psychological, and a physical component, or a cultural component. And the structural component is what's available, the actual things that are available. The psychological is what do the workers think, or what do the leaders think. And then the cultural is, of course, we go back to Lenovo by comparison. For example, you have a combination of people from different parts of the world. How does that affect the work? Now, the metaphor I think of when I think of this type of thing, when they keep tweaking, when they build an idea, they run it, they tweak it, they go back, they do it again and again. This goes back to my master's classes in data analytics when we did machine learning. Machine learning is an idea where you go and you create you work with a set of data, you set aside test data and training data. Now, the training data is run through the process. It's looked at. It's determined if it's good, or if it works or not, if the process works or not. If not, you redo it, you tweak it, you redo it, and you're constantly retweaking it. It's never perfected. And I think that's the sense of what I got from these readings, is that in organizational learning, you do start out with an idea. It sounds great on paper. You build it or you create it, and you run through the process. You determine if it works or not. If it does, great. That's never going to happen. But what'll happen is you'll tweak it, or somebody else will come along and change the process a little bit and see if that works. And then from there you keep building it up. Now, that's a simplified way of looking at things. I know in the business world, it's not as simple as just running through a set of data or running through a process. There's a series of processes. But with, let's say, the Lenovo case, where you had the tweaking of where you had the cultural change, conflicts, and you tweaked it, and then you changed the way things were working, and you built up the company from there. It worked. It's developed into one of the leading computer companies in the world. With Lego, you've brought in a combination of people from Denmark, and you were working in the plants in Mexico, which helps serve North America. And again, you build the idea, you rework it, and eventually it gets to a steady format. Now, I think that's a pretty simple way of looking at it. I think that there are other things we're going to learn in the course, of course, about how things work, and from there we'll go further as the course goes on. Thank you.